Bungie is a very embarrassing company. That is a great summarization of this video and really just this company the last couple of years. Every dumb scandal that they've run into, it feels like something that could have been easily avoided, but yet here we are. And this video originally was just centered on Destiny 2 and that ridiculous lawsuit that has turned into something so much more, but this video has spiraled into something completely different because of some recent events surrounding Marathon and the fact that Bungie just blatantly stole the entire identity of an artist's artwork and used it for Marathon. It's a whole thing we're going to get into, but we're going to start with this. In 2024, towards the latter part of the year, Bungie's CEO is criticized for spending millions on classic cars as call for leadership changes escalate. This is right around the time that hundreds of employees were being fired. The CEO is putting out letters saying like hard times have hit us all, and it's like no it hasn't. You just spent $2 million on a vintage car and you're saying all this to employees that no longer have jobs. And actually one of them pointed out, you also invited me to come see your new cars 2 days before you laid me off. It was just a very embarrassing headline, and that really is a great summarization of Marathon. I actually had a chance to play this. I've seen the trailers and everything. I thought that the art direction looked phenomenal. More on that later. But the more I played it over the last week or so beforehand, it just extremely boring. I think that's something a lot of people felt. You can see that with the player numbers we'll get into in a second, but this has been a common thread with this extraction shooter since it debuted, well, since it began development a couple of years ago. We had in 2023 reports coming from Tarkov players that, yeah, they didn't care at all for this either. And now we got to have our own hands on it, and there's nothing unique or striking about this. And while comparisons to Concord, I think some people find it completely unfounded, but I don't know. I see some striking similarities, which I said in the previous video, it really should scare Bungie, and so far we haven't heard anything, but I do think that eventually they're going to delay Marathon. It just has to be, based on all the scandals and everything that has happened. But yeah, and then there was also the fact that the original Marathon director was fired following a misconduct investigation. This was also around August 2024. Just so much chaos. And then obviously, as I alluded to just a second ago, they laid off a couple of hundred employees. This was right after they released a massive expansion for Destiny 2 that, you know, received critical, acclaim from critics and users, but there just wasn't enough engagement with it. And I think that really just says a lot about modern day Bungie and the fact that their brands, their franchises is starting to dry up, and the interest with Destiny and even Marathon, it just isn't there, which obviously should scare PlayStation, who invested a couple of $1 billion into this company. Now, this is what I mean, the Marathon closed alpha. Yeah, this is striking. You gave out codes just to a certain amount of players, and even myself, I kind of gave up after about a day or two. But yeah, 7,000 players was the peak, and it immediately lost about 80% before it was over. That's not great. And especially with this being a paid experience, there's just so many red flags with Marathon right now. And, you know, with better options in the market, especially with extraction shooters, and nothing unique, you know, going for Marathon except for its art direction, Bungie's PlayStation, they have to be terrified right now. And this is what I mean. Right around the same time, we had Arc Raiders, another extraction shooter that had a lot more players engaged with it during its own alpha or beta or whatever it was. And yes, the footage that was coming out, the impressions were a lot more positive than Marathon, which a lot of people were extremely just not feeling it. And I think the overall sentiment is the same thing that I've said. It's just that it was kind of boring. There was nothing that really made me want to stick with this and really spend money on this product. But yeah, this has been the big thing that has been talked about lately with Bungie, and it's a massive lawsuit that was started around October of 2024. We talked about this months ago in a video, a news video of sorts. It seemed like a lawsuit that was really destined to go nowhere. Destiny 2's Red War campaign accused of lifting plot elements from online story in Louisiana lawsuit. And this individual accused the game company of copyright infringement related to Destiny 2's 2017 storyline, The Red War. Plaintiff Kelsey Martineau, who in 2013 and 2014 created work under the pen name Casper Cole, alleges that Bungie lifted elements from a story he published on WordPress.com, a random WordPress, and the similarities a lot of Destiny players have said it just doesn't make any sense. And this is something that should be easily defeatable in the courts, but it's not going that way so far. Specifically, this is what the lawsuit said. Defendants have deliberately and intentionally copied the character's storyline and other protectable expression from Martineau's work in the infringing game. This is what the claim said in October of 2024. The claim includes a laundry list of examples from Martineau's work in Destiny 2 that the plaintiff claims is proof of Bungie's wrongdoing. Including in each story are mentions of groups known as the Red Legion, with the suit pointing to character similarities between Destiny's Dominus Gull and Martineau's Overlord Ynera. The document goes as far as to say that both Red Legion factions mimic one another, and that their goals directly overlap, blah 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 blah. They say that there's a bunch of other narrative connections and similarities. That means that Bungie absolutely stole it. And, well, again, a lot in the Destiny community found this completely unfounded. It's a stupid lawsuit, probably going to go nowhere. And then there was also some updates. This individual also made claims that the Curse of Osiris expansion also stole further of his work. But this isn't where this lawsuit is going in the direction that you may think, because Bungie, they did push back on the lawsuit. They said the claims don't hold up, and then they pretty much went to the courts and said, let's just dismiss this lawsuit. It's ridiculous. But the problem is they don't have any material that they can show in court. Like, they can't actually go into their game and say, yeah, this is obviously fake, because all of that content has been vaulted up to this point. Bungie's lawyers have to use fan videos of old Destiny 2 content in court because, well, it doesn't exist in game anymore. This is one of the big reasons why I've never actually been able to get into Destiny 2, because you don't know where to fucking start. And a lot of Destiny 2 players have said that there's like a 10-hour video that you can look to, but that's just absolutely insane. And one of those long-time issues that Bungie has never been able to really figure out, and now it's coming to bite their ass in this lawsuit. And we have seen further that Bungie explained in court, saying they will explain why there's no feasible way to play Destiny 2's vaulted Red War campaign, even internally in new court filings. And yes, they put in their court filing 13 hours of video and fan Wikipedia pages as evidence to go against this lawsuit. It's just so dumb, and that's why I mean, this company is just so damn embarrassing with everything that they do. But yeah, Bungie has made clear in new court filings that the original Destiny 2 Red War campaign isn't just gone for players, it apparently no longer exists in a playable form within the studio itself. And then how did the court react? Well, this is the reaction. Court denies Bungie's attempt to dismiss Destiny 2 Red War lawsuit, refuses to consider YouTube videos and wiki pages as proof. And it's a damning assessment, but in its motion to dismiss, Bungie included links to fan-recorded YouTube videos and summaries from Destinypedia, again, fan pages, to show the content Martineau was accusing of, well, that they copied apparently, since the original campaigns were removed from Destiny 2 years ago and cannot be accessed by anyone anymore. But the judge was not on board with that. And it goes on to mention that Bungie archived the original code that comprised the Red War and Curse of Osiris campaigns, known as Legacy Builds. Game director Tyson Green's declaration reads, however, the Red War and Curse of Osiris Legacy Builds can no longer run because the outdated code is incompatible with Destiny 2's underlying operational framework, which has evolved considerably since the Red War and Osiris campaigns were retired. As a result, Bungie cannot feasibly provide the court with the original Destiny 2 game as it existed in 2017. And just the idea that they're potentially going to lose this lawsuit because they can't access their own content with their own lives, it's just honestly so embarrassing. And this is just modern day Bungie. Everything that they touch, it feels ruined right now. And this is where we take a turn with this video, because this is where we get into another scandal that exploded while I was starting to work on this video, and it's just even much more damning about the state of Bungie right now. And this company has been accused of theft a couple of times. We talked about this in previous news videos over the years. There was the big Nerf replica scandal that happened in September of 2024. This lawsuit was, well, it wasn't a lawsuit, but this scandal in which an individual accused Bungie of stealing, it was blatant. Like, this is the evidence. It's extremely blatant, and I'll put a better image on the screen so you can see for yourself. But one of the individuals, the contractors that they hired to make, they just blatantly stole this design from this artist on a different website. And Bungie obviously did compensate the user, they apologized, but it's just one of those things that it just keeps adding up. And then we had another individual that came forward right around the same time that this Nerf replica scandal was going on. They actually responded to the artist, the original artist of the Nerf replica, saying, I don't think I've ever talked about it publicly, but this isn't the first time this has happened. I had my work ripped off in 2012 when concepts from Destiny leaked, and Yeah, that's pretty blatant there. And just another little scandal that popped up. Obviously, it looks like a Bungie concept artist took directly from this individual's work, didn't credit, obviously. Then there was also the fact that Destiny 2 used fan art for a new Witch Queen trailer back in 2021. This was another thing that was just as blatant. And in each of these incidents, Bungie has come forward, they've apologized, they've said that they're going to compensate these individuals in some manner, and they have. It's just the fact that this keeps on fucking happening. There was also this one. This was another striking one that happened around 2024 last year, around the same time the Nerf replica thing was going on. Destiny 2 artist says Bungie never paid for copying fan art a year after promised compensation. We actually heard from a former Bungie lawyer that explained why this never happened, and it's because they fired the guy who was supposed to make the payment. It's just like I said, such a fucking embarrassing company. And now this gets us to the big Marathon scandal that's going on right now. Marathon Alpha draws new plagiarism accusations against Bungie as artist says game is plastered with stolen art. And no, it's not just plastered. The entire identity of Marathon was directly stolen from an artist. It's just so blatant, and this individual, this artist that's accusing, they don't seemingly want a massive lawsuit, but they probably are entitled to millions of dollars based on the fact that the entire identity, the entirety soul of this new Marathon reboot was lifted from their own work. And I just find this funny. Individuals were saying in response to some of the new Marathon images back in April, new Marathon looks like someone scrolled down Behance and Pinterest for 20 minutes and just saved everything they saw. That's exactly what fucking happened here. This is the artist, N2, or Anti-Real. The Marathon Alpha released recently, and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made in 2017. And this is what I mean. Look at this. They didn't even try to make this a little bit different. You have Marathon right here. The Aleph, I think it says, Dark Space something logistics. They literally just copy and pasted it over to Marathon, the actual game. And the entire identity, this is just one little, there's so many more. Here's another one. Again, these little icons and such, all of them taken from this artist's own work. A Bungie employee clearly was looking directly at it. They clearly copy and pasted it on over to the game. And clearly Bungie's legal team, or their entire team, nobody decided to maybe check any of this at all. And this gets so much worse. I need people to understand like the fact that Bungie didn't figure this out or didn't notice that they were directly stealing another individual, there's more damning pieces that point to them just being extremely lazy if they didn't know. And I almost feel like they had to have known. But yeah, here's another one. This is what I mean, like these little icons and everything. This came from the artist. It's just so blatant and so obvious. And this individual said, again, they said, Bungie is, of course, not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language. It's not that they draw it, they literally stole it. I have refined for the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas. Again, the entire soul of this Marathon reboot is directly coming from this artist. I just don't know how you continue without this game being tainted, and I really don't know how Bungie moves forward without this game constantly being brought up, the fact that they just stole the entire identity from this artist. But they go on to say, clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without payer attribution. I don't have the resources nor the energy to spare to pursue this legally, but I have lost count of the number of times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work than to write me an email. And I've seen people joke, they're just like, why not just fucking use AI at this point instead of like literally stealing all of this? In 10 years, I've never made a consistent income from this work, and I am tired of designers from huge companies mood boarding and parasiting my designs while I struggle to make a living. And say what you will, they have to pay this individual millions. I don't care what you say, don't care the argument. This person's going to have to get a massive payout. Anything under that, I think that would be ridiculous. And I understand this individual doesn't want to go forward with the lawsuit because of the headache. They don't want to go after Sony and all that. But at the same time, I mean, I just don't know how you compensate this individual enough with the fact that the entirety of Marathon comes from this artist's original work. And then this is where it gets even more fucking damning. I see that Joseph Cross also follows you. Is there any insight you can give about the connection there? He's followed me for a few years. Yes, Bungie employees and art director. The franchise art director followed him for a few years, and a few others from Bungie never had any communication. And look, obviously a lot of individuals are blaming this on an outside contractor, But this is all stuff that Bungie they should have noticed. And this is what I mean. It's not a former employee that followed Anti-Real. It's a current employee that followed. Unless you already made Joseph Cross a former employee, this screenshot came from Firm Anti-Real, the individual that obviously, the original artist of all this. They were followed by the franchise art director. Again, this just looks so bad for Bungie and Sony. And then, like I said, there's just so much more damning evidence that has been brought up. All of these designs come from this original artist's work, and this is all stuff that is featured in the Marathon Alpha. This is all stuff that I saw while playing. Like, the entire identity of this game was literally stolen from an artist's artwork. Yeah, look at all this. Everything. All of the ARGs, all of the marketing, they just said, let's just steal it from this individual and not at all even try to contact them. And then this is even funnier. This is genuinely insane, man. They straight up took your shit. And then this N2 person in 2024 said, I hid loss in my design 6 years ago and nobody caught on. And then here from the future, if anyone doubts the theft of your art, this also confirms that the lost meme is very much there in the Marathon game, because of course it is. And to further this, Paul Tassi, Forbes journalist, he brought up, Jesus, this one is real bad. And yes, they literally scrubbed the artist's name out just to put in there. Like I said, either this has been something that they clearly knew was happening, or they're just extremely lazy and nobody at all looked at the, the textures and all of this stuff. And yeah, Anti-Real daily series, and they scrubbed it just a little bit so it wasn't noticeable. And here is another instance, more proof again, artist's original in-game texture. Again, it's so obvious, so blatantly, icons original, in-game texture. Yeah, like I said, it's just so obvious, so blatant. And then yeah, you can see it another different texture or something that looks similar, that you can see that they scrubbed out the name just so it wasn't noticeable. Even if this was an outside contract studio or whatever, this is absolutely fucking unacceptable. And the Washington Post, Gene Park, did interview this artist. They said it was kind of vindicating to see direct plagiarism, because it meant I wasn't crazy for feeling so uncomfortable with the overall direction. I kept quiet about it because I was advised to seek legal action. But I don't have enough time or money to fly out to the US to pursue an unwinnable court case against Sony. And I don't know if this is unwinnable, to be honest. Like, I get it, Sony would probably keep this in the courts for so long, and I'm sure that they just want a massive paycheck from Bungie, which they're going to have to do. Like, they have to come out with a statement in the next couple of days saying that, yeah, we've come to an agreement with this artist. But this is just so damning, especially with all the scandals that have happened the last couple of years with them stealing artwork. It just keeps on happening, and this time it came from a direct Bungie artist, it seems. And this is the response that the Marathon dev team has given, and it's another statement that's extremely not satisfying. It doesn't really say much. It says, we immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist, I wonder if this is referring to the franchise art director that follows this artist the last couple of years, I wonder, included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in game. I don't care what they say, the entire identity of Marathon is on that artist's portfolio. Like, this is bad. This is really fucking bad. They go on to say the issue was unknown by our existing art team. I don't know. And we are still reviewing how this oversight occurred. Maybe the part where they scrubbed the artist's name out, maybe that was the part of the art team they didn't want anybody to notice. But even that, they did a lazy job with, which maybe that says a lot about Marathon and how it's been developed the last couple of years, because it clearly hasn't been thought out too well. We take matters like this very seriously. The last 4 incidents, I guess they didn't take those seriously because it keeps happening. We have reached out to the artist to discuss this issue and are committed to do right by this artist. As a matter of policy, again, anything less than millions of dollars, I would not touch. I would not settle. This is a winnable case. I don't care what they say. Bungie have to compromise. They have to come to some sort of agreement with this individual, no matter what. Like, this is bad. As a matter of policy, we do not use the work of artists without their permission. Really? You sure about that, Bungie? You sure about that? To prevent similar issues in the future, we are conducting a thorough review of our in-game assets, specifically those done by the former Bungie artist, and implementing stricter checks to document all artist contributions. We value the creativity and dedication of all artists who contribute to our games, and we are committed to doing right by them. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. God. And like I said, Joseph Cross, the art director, he did say, so lucky to have worked with, this is an outsourced company. I'm sure that they probably have somebody that, I have to assume that they were partially responsible, or they did some of this work, or maybe it really just was Bungie employees being extremely lazy. Or maybe this is just a massive scandal and they knew. Who knows? But right now, this is just as ugly as it gets for this game. The original artist, their post, I believe it has over 39,000 likes right now. 43. This is as bad as it gets in terms of negative publicity. We have seen, like I said, other individuals, commentators have said, my name is Biff, saying, okay, but this is more than just a few in-game textures, rightfully pointing that out. There's a few visual languages in Anti-Real's portfolio that is dripping in the same art style as New Marathon years before the game was even announced. It was all over the ARG2. So like I said, they're trying to make it out to be that it was just like a texture sheet they stole this. I don't know. Like, the entire soul of this game seemingly came from this artist's original work. We got more posts. Insane to think that several people sat there getting paid to copy and paste stolen assets. This level of thievery is genuinely mind-blowing. It's like the entire brand identity of the game just stolen from an independent artist. That's exactly what happened here. Even if N2 or Anti-Real decides to take a deal, they need to lawyer up. Pretty safe to say that their icons is key to the visual language of Marathon. From top to bottom, the world was designed to accommodate it, which is what I've been trying to emphasize throughout this video talking about the subject. That's massive. Bungie will rip them off if M2 doesn't have proper advisors, or N2. I do agree. I agree with that. Like I said, I wouldn't settle unless you get millions of dollars, and even then, maybe they're entitled for more at this point. And then this is what's been happening on the Marathon Discord. Many individuals going after Bungie, obviously ripping them for all this. Joseph Cross being caught following the artist they stole from. Yeah, this is bad, guys. This is bad. So we canceling the live stream because they're supposed to have a live stream today. I'm sure they have to cancel it, or y'all gonna take it on the chin. We'll see what happens with that. Another individual saying, Bungie abandoned the original art style to steal someone else's work. Yeah, this is what Marathon was back in the 90s. And that's why a lot of people were very confused with the art direction that they're taking with this new Marathon reboot. But myself, I thought it was pretty interesting, something that was unique. I said that on my own Twitter account, and even playing it, I thought that was the one thing that actually worked with this. But now knowing that most of it was stolen, I think that just puts this in a different light. Another individual, Paris, commentator, saying, this stolen artwork used in Marathon is extremely disappointing, and Bungie leadership needs to take full responsibility by compensating the artists and completely removing it all from the game. The problem is the entire soul of this game came from this artist. How much of the game can you, like, just, you know, take out? Or how much can you take out of this artist's work? I just genuinely don't know. Delay Marathon, that's an obvious. They should have already done that after that closed alpha didn't turn out the way that they hoped for. The game already had problems and, in my opinion, was launching incomplete. I agree. It's bare bones in terms of content, but now you can't explain this away and pretend everything is okay. I feel bad for all the devs who had nothing to do with this, but this is inexcusable and a horrible look for Bungie. I agree with that latter part of that statement. We had a YouTuber, Hidden Xperia, saying, already been said, but practically the entire aesthetic backbone of Marathon is either severely based upon another artist's specific style, B, straight up copied from their portfolio. This goes far beyond a few stolen decals, which is what they're trying to make it out to be. I genuinely don't know how this gets resolved. And I think this only gets resolved with them paying millions of dollars. But the problem is, do you take all this content out? And it's tainted no matter what. And that's a problem that Bungie and Sony are now going to run into. No matter what, this game is going to have to get delayed. They're going to have to change things, I think, drastically in terms of game content and also its art design. This is just a mess. This is an absolute mess for a game that almost feels like it's maybe destined for maybe the Concord treatment in the future. I would not be surprised. I think there is a possibility this ends up just getting canceled. But hey, maybe not. I mean, they are planning still September launch. I just feel like a delay announcement is on the horizon. It has to be. But yeah, this has been Bungie in 2025 and really the last couple of years. A very embarrassing company. Each of these scandals, it's just... this isn't the Bungie that I grew up with. And I think that's very obvious with many of the employees, many of the veterans that made this company who they were during the Halo days and even the early Destiny days. They're long gone. And this is just another scandal, many more scandals that continues to embarrass this once amazing company. But what do you make of them stealing from Marathon and also the Destiny 2 Red War lawsuit? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, I'll see you later.